Story 1. The suite with no reflections. 11:40 p.m. In a luxury suite where every mirror was covered in identical black cloth, one of them shifted like something inside had pressed against it. I stepped into the suite and the first thing that hit me wasn't the smell of citrus cleaner or the soft hotel lighting. It was the way every reflective surface had been smothered under perfect sheets of black fabric. The tape edges still curled from the heat, like someone had put them up seconds before I arrived. My client, Senator Halden, didn't greet me. He only stared at the largest mirror, the one under a thicker layer of cloth, like he expected it to move again. When I walked past it, the fabric dragged softly as if a fingertip traced the inside. I tried to pretend this was normal, the way I always do around powerful men with strange requests. I offered him a drink. He didn't answer. The air near that mirror felt colder, thin enough that it brushed my skin like a draft with intent. He told me not to touch the cloth. His voice cracked on the last word, and something about that crack made the room feel smaller. Nothing reflective remained in the suite. No chrome, no glass, nothing but that one mirror. He kept watching harder than he watched me. The cloth twitched again, higher this time, like a shoulder shifting under a blanket. The senator stepped closer and whispered that his reflection hadn't matched him for weeks, that it copied everything except his eyes, that the delay was getting worse. I told him we should leave the room, even just to breathe different air, but he blocked the door. Not aggressive, just terrified. He said opening it would give it a way out. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want clarity in that moment. He turned back to the mirror and spoke to it in a soft voice, like coaxing something frightened. The tape peeled another inch. Clean, slow, precise. My pulse thudded in my fingers. I said I was leaving. He whispered, "Too late." I moved toward the door anyway, not running, just fast walking with purpose. My hand reached for the handle right as a smooth ripple slid across the cloth, like a palm pressing outward. The tape snapped with a tiny crack that sounded too sharp in the silence. I turned. The cloth sagged forward, outlining something tall behind it. Head, shoulders, tilted slightly as if studying me through the fabric. The bottom lifted for a moment, pulled inward like it was taking a breath, before settling again. I grabbed the handle. It wouldn't turn. The cloth fell without a sound. The mirror showed the suite as it should be, but my reflection lagged half a second behind. When I lifted my hand, it bent its wrist farther than mine, the angle wrong enough to twist my stomach. Its eyes were too dark, too still. Would you keep standing there if your own face moved late? I shoved the door open and sprinted to the elevator. The hallway lights flickered while I hit the button again and again. Inside the elevator, surrounded by mirrored steel, everything looked normal. Clean, solid. Then something slid from my jacket pocket and brushed my wrist, a neatly folded square of black cloth. Crisp, fresh. I don't remember picking it up. If you've ever seen a mirror do something it shouldn't, tell me if I should have kept walking. Story 2. The driver who never looked back. 9:15 p.m., a tinted sedan idling on the shoulder with the inside lights off. The engine hummed like a quiet warning as I stepped inside, the cabin dark enough that I could barely see the driver's outline. I told myself this was routine, a discreet meeting, nothing more, but the way he watched the road instead of me made it feel like he already knew too much. She was already in the back seat, posture neat, eyes adjusted to the dark. Our shoulders almost touched when I sat, and a freshly applied perfume rose between us, warm and close. A passing rush of highway light traced the shape of her mouth before vanishing, and the rearview mirror angled itself just enough to catch my face. She leaned toward me to speak, soft and careful, but her words tangled when I brushed a crease from her collar. My fingertip grazed the warm fabric, slow enough to count. The mirror clicked upward in a tiny mechanical shift, even though the driver's hands never moved. I whispered the terms, clean, minimal, confidential. Her voice followed, too near, ending with a breath that slid into my ear, warm and slow. The strange part was that she hadn't moved at all. The breath had come from somewhere else, and the mirror seemed to wait for me to understand that. I kept my voice to a thread as I outlined the final numbers. The driver adjusted nothing except his speed, matching the exact timeline I'd whispered. The mirror inched higher, reflecting the empty back seat like it expected someone to be sitting there. The car drifted back into open highway, and her knee brushed mine under the dim cabin light. She didn't pull away. The warmth stayed, a quiet pressure that unsettled more than it invited. The mirror twitched again, a small shift acknowledging the contact. She turned to the window, hair falling forward in a soft line. I reached to move a single strand from her cheek, and the skin beneath it tightened in a shiver that didn't belong to the temperature inside the car. The mirror caught the motion like it was documenting us. Silence thickened until it felt heavy on my tongue, humid and deliberate. None of us spoke. The car seemed to hold its breath along with us. The mirror settled in the center of that quiet, fixed like it was listening. I mouthed the last confidential detail, barely shaping the words. Still, the driver reacted with a small nod as if I'd spoken aloud. The mirror tilted again, showing only the empty seat behind us, reflecting a shadow that didn't match the car's motion. She shifted, giving me space, but a warm patch stayed on my skin, precise and lingering. A scent drifted in, someone else's perfume, recent and out of place. A new fingerprint smudged the edge of the mirror, one I knew hadn't been there moments before. A chill tightened the air. Something leaned close to my ear, murmuring a sentence shaped like a warning or a request. The escort inhaled sharply, confused. I turned fast. No one was there, but the mirror showed an outline dissolving behind my shoulder. The driver stayed perfectly still. Fear pushed my hand forward. I struck the mirror hard, sending it spinning until it froze, pointing at the ceiling. 3 fingerprints marked the glass, none matching mine, none matching the driver's unmarked hands. At the motel later, on the black TV screen, the same prints waited in the same pattern, as if someone had pressed their face close to watch me walk in. Would you trust a mirror that shows a person the car didn't have? Tell me if I should have run sooner. Story 3. VIP locker room key 1:03 a.m. A single locker door hung open in a room that was supposed to be locked. I slipped into the training center with my badge still warm from the scanner, expecting silence. The VIP row looked asleep except for one locker holding its mouth open like it had been caught in the middle of a word. I wasn't supposed to bring anyone here, but emptiness makes promises people can't. He stood close while I checked the hallway, our shoulders nearly touching. His clean, recent scent drifted up each time he breathed, and the strip light carved a soft outline along his mouth. The locker didn't move, yet the air felt heavier, as if someone had just stepped away from it. I reached for the open door, trying to look casual, but he stepped closer and I adjusted his collar without thinking. My fingertips grazed the warm fabric, just enough to feel deliberate. Inside, a single wristband waited on the top shelf. Team issue. His name printed cleanly across it. He whispered he'd never owned one. The door seemed to ease wider, though I hadn't touched it. He leaned in, voice low. His breath warmed my ear, slow and careful, like he wanted to test how close he could get before I reacted. The locker swayed behind us with a thin, metallic sigh. No draft. No movement. His breath paused on my skin, and I couldn't tell if he was listening to the same sound or something else entirely. I stepped back to inspect the band, checking for holograms, codes, anything that proved it belonged here. The smudge on the print was in the exact place our machine leaves it. If that wristband existed, I should have logged it. He watched me from behind, a tension pressing between my shoulders like a hand I couldn't shrug off. We moved toward the bench, and when I sat, his knee touched mine under the metal slat. He didn't move away. The lockers hummed faintly, though the HVAC was dead for the night. The vibration felt intentional, a silence waiting for its moment. The open locker watched from the corner of my eye, its patience unnatural. He bent to examine the wristband, and a loose strand of hair slipped forward. I brushed it aside with my fingertips. The skin beneath rose, a small tremor asking for the gesture twice. The locker behind us creaked again, too soft to be random, too close to ignore. We both pretended not to hear it. Then everything went still. The room held its breath with us, thick and listening. Our own breathing sounded borrowed, like something else was matching it. The air carried a faint humidity, as if a third presence had just breathed out. The locker stayed open, but the stillness around it felt like a trap waiting to spring. I told him to stay while I checked the far end of the row. The rubber floor swallowed my steps, but the hum from the lockers shifted pitch as I moved. When I turned back, he stared at the open door like it was calling him by name. He said he felt watched. I didn't want to admit I felt the same. I reached for him, brushing his arm. A soft heat clung to my skin when he stepped back, along with a trace of perfume too strong for how long we'd been sealed inside. The locker slammed shut, metal ringing down the row, then slowly creaked open again. The door trembled like something inside had pushed once and retreated. I leaned in to check the interior, but he followed, his breath warming my neck. He whispered something I couldn't write down, soft syllables that felt offbeat, rehearsed. An echo answered from behind us where no one stood. A phone vibrated inside the locker, screen glowing with an unsaved number. He lies to both of you. The metal bent outward from the inside. If your name showed up in a locked room you'd never entered, would you stay? Tell me what you'd have done. I dragged him out before the door finished warping. We didn't talk in the car, didn't mention the voice or the message or the way the locker seemed to breathe. 3 days later, an envelope waited in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a wristband. Same color. Same print. Same smear. And a second one beneath it, still warm like someone had peeled it off just moments before. Story 4. The guest list with one extra name, 7:50 p.m., rooftop venue. The check-in tablet showed my name twice. I was hired to be discreet, not memorable. That's the rule when a billionaire wants a companion for a charity dinner that isn't quite a charity dinner. By 7:50 p.m., I stepped out of the elevator into the rooftop penthouse. Glass walls, warm lighting, soft jazz hiding the price of everything. I kept my posture loose, the way clients expect when they've paid for presents, not conversation. Nothing felt wrong yet. Then the check-in tablet blinked at me. My name sat on the screen twice. Same spelling. Same ID. The second entry marked already inside. A staffer shifted closer, our shoulders almost touching, and I caught a perfume recent pasado, something clean and expensive. The Luz que diseña a boca of the tablet glowed over her lips as she frowned at the duplicate. Her finger hovered, almost rocar my hand. Strange, she murmured. You usually arrive only once. I tried to laugh it off, but the tablet refreshed again, my doubles check-in time shifting by a minute as if it were breathing. The staffer asked me to confirm my role, and when I leaned in, I adjusted the edge of her blazer to see the screen better. My Ponta dos Dedos brushed the Tecido que Araña de Leave, warm from her skin. She didn't pull away. You already told us you'd be upstairs, she said. Right before you went in. I hadn't said a word to her before now. Another attendant called my name from behind. Same tone, same easy familiarity, as if we'd shared a long conversation. When I turned, he stepped close enough that his respiratorio quent grazed my ear. We've set your preferred drink, he said, finishing the sentence inside the curve of my neck. A murmurio, slow and too confident. But I hadn't ordered anything. I hadn't even stepped past the check-in podium. I moved deeper into the foyer, trying to steady myself, but the room treated me like someone already familiar. Server passed with a tray of champagne and greeted me with a soft, "Back again?" Guests brushed by with nods that didn't belong to me. Every face held that flicker of recognition people use when they think they've already spoken to you. My name felt loose on my chest, like the badge might peel off and reveal whoever they actually meant to see. I sat at a small table near the windows to regroup, texting the client I was supposed to meet. No response. A woman in a silver dress crossed to the opposite chair and slipped into it like we'd planned it. Under the linen, her knee found mine, presseo leave, no hesitation. The humide du air around us seemed to tighten. Did you forget our talk in the gallery? She asked. Her smile didn't match the question. I had never been to any gallery tonight. She leaned closer, studying my face like she was comparing it to a memory I hadn't lived. A loose strand slipped across her cheek and I reached out to move it. Just a light sweep of my fingers, ponta dos dedos, nothing more. The skin beneath her temple pelle arrepiotta instantly, as if my touch confirmed something she'd already decided about me. You're acting different now, she whispered. No. As if there had been a before. Then she fell silent. Not annoyed, expectant. The kind of silence with timing de silencio heavy enough to press into your ribs. The room around us dimmed in awareness, like the penthouse itself was leaning in to hear what I'd say next. I didn't speak. Couldn't. Her gaze held mine, steady, searching, waiting for a version of me she thought she'd already met. Even the soft jazz felt like it was listening. I excused myself under the pretense of taking a call, though my phone was blank. As I walked back toward the entrance, the check-in tablet lit up again on its own. A new notification slid across the screen. Escort number 2 has requested to meet you privately. My stomach pulled tight. I hadn't requested anyone. And no escort worked an event like this without being vetted. The staff moved around me with polite efficiency, but every glance carried the same quiet assumption, that I'd already been here, already spoken, already chosen where I wanted to go. I stepped away from the tablet, but when a passing server brushed between us, her sleeve roku mine, leaving a calor no pescoco that didn't make sense, like someone else had been standing exactly where I was. A faint trace of perfume recent pasado clung to my collar, a scent I hadn't leaned close enough to earn tonight. When I looked back, the tablet updated again. My duplicate status changed to waiting. Side corridor. I followed the hallway toward the service corridor, steps slow, breath tight. A side door hissed open on its own. No footsteps, no shadow withdrawing. I felt someone move up behind me, close enough that respiraceo quent curled against my ear. A murmurio brushed the edge of my jaw. You took long enough. I spun. No one. But the echo, soft, delayed, came from farther down the hall, from the darkness where the tablet claimed my other self was waiting. On the floor inside the doorway lay a name badge. My name, my photo, the lanyard still warm as though someone had just dropped it. I didn't go in. I walked out of the penthouse, past the tablet flashing its last update. Second entry logged out. Later, in the elevator, my phone buzzed. An outgoing call I never made. Timestamped minutes earlier. Labeled second entry. If a place swore I was already inside, who was wearing my tag? Tell me if I should have checked the door. Story 5. NDA number 1710:22 p.m. Private townhouse. An NDA waiting on the desk already bearing my signature. The townhouse looked too expensive for someone who insisted on anonymity. I'd worked with political clients before, quiet men with loud secrets. But this one had sent a car with tinted windows and a single instruction to come alone. When I stepped inside, the NDA was already laid out, crisp and expectant, like someone had prepared for a version of me I didn't remember being. He stood close as I read it. Our shoulders almost touched, and his warm breath drifted near my cheek while the desk lamp traced the shape of his mouth. I hadn't even picked up the page, but my fingers trembled anyway because the signature at the bottom, my signature, was already there. Identical. The half-open door behind us felt like it was waiting to see what I'd do next. I told him it had to be a mistake. He didn't argue. He just stepped closer and brushed my collar with slow, deliberate fingers, smoothing fabric that didn't need fixing. The faint scrape of cloth warmed my throat as he murmured, "Look at the date." It showed a night I wasn't even in the state. The page shook slightly in my hand, though he hadn't touched it. Then he leaned in, speaking so close the last words landed hot against my ear. "You were here," he said. "You insisted on the NDA." The line sank into my skin like it had waited there. The lamp lit only his mouth, leaving the rest of him in shadow, and for a moment I heard the same sentence whispered again, behind me where no one stood. I kept my voice steady as he opened a drawer built into the desk. "If you don't believe me," he said, sliding it toward me, "look." Inside were stacks of NDAs, each with my name printed cleanly at the top, each dated months apart, each bearing a different version of my handwriting. Originals, not copies. I leaned closer, and his knee touched mine under the desk, a quiet pressure he didn't withdraw. The air felt heavier, almost humid, as if the room tightened around us. A low warmth spread along my leg where he pressed against me. One corner of the drawer quivered, just enough for me to notice, though neither of us moved. One NDA had tomorrow's date on it, complete with a time slot I hadn't booked. My name waited neatly at the bottom. When I lifted the page, a strand of hair slipped forward, and he reached out slowly to move it aside with the tip of his finger. A soft line of warmth trailed down my temple, raising goosebumps along my neck. For a second it felt like the page exhaled. Silence settled between us, dense and deliberate. His breath matched mine, the townhouse seeming to listen. Even the distant city noise faded out. A single sheet on the desk lifted an inch without any draft, rising and falling like it was answering the quiet we left hanging. He closed the drawer halfway as if he wanted me close but not too close. "You always try to renegotiate," he said with calm certainty. Like he knew versions of me I didn't. I stepped back and he matched it without hurry, eyes steady, waiting for a choice I didn't understand. The tomorrow-dated NDA lay angled toward me like a warning I wasn't supposed to ignore. When he finally stepped away, a patch of heat stayed on my skin, a ghost of where he'd been standing. And something clung to my shirt, a faint, freshly applied scent I didn't recognize, as if someone had leaned in when I wasn't looking. The drawer's edge was warm too, as if touched twice. Then a new NDA slid forward on its own, perfectly aligned, untouched by the nearby firelight. He lifted that newest copy with slow precision and held it over the fire. The flames reflected in his eyes but didn't change his expression. Then he leaned in again, warm breath brushing my neck, fingers grazing the back of my hand in a touch so light it could have been imagined. "You're going to sign the right one this time," he whispered, echoed a heartbeat later from behind me. When he let the page fall into the fire, a second copy slipped from the drawer and landed at my feet without a mark. I didn't sign anything. I don't remember leaving. Only the cold on my throat once his warmth vanished, and the untouched NDA glowing under the streetlight like it had followed me out. This morning an email arrived, confirmation for tomorrow's appointment. Same time, same room. My name typed neatly, like someone who knew my hand better than I did had written it. If someone could sign your name better than you, would you walk out or read the next page? Tell me what you trust.